Welcome, film theorists. Today we're diving deep into the darkest corners of space to uncover a chilling truth about one of sci-fi's most iconic monsters, the Xenomorph. Not just a cosmic horror, but potentially a weapon of mass destruction. What if I told you that the nightmarish Xenomorphs weren't born, but made? That's right. These perfect killing machines might be the product of sinister genetic engineering. It's like finding out your favorite childhood monster was actually cooked up in a lab by mad scientists with a galactic grudge. Mind-blowing, right? Let's take a quick trip down memory lane, shall we? The Alien franchise has been serving up spine-chilling, acid-dripping terror since 1979. We've watched in horror as these sleek, biomechanical nightmares stalked their prey through claustrophobic spaceship corridors and desolate planets. But what if everything we thought we knew about these creatures was just scratching the surface of a much deeper, darker mystery? Enter the bioengineered weapon theory. It's not just a wild fan theory cooked up on some obscure Reddit thread. No, this is a game changer that could rewrite everything we thought we knew about the alien universe. Imagine if the Xenomorphs weren't just some cosmic accident or the product of evolution gone horribly wrong. What if they were purposefully designed, each terrifying feature carefully crafted for maximum lethality? But here's where it gets really interesting. If the Xenomorphs are engineered weapons, who created them? And more importantly, why? It's like discovering that the monster under your bed was actually put there on purpose. The implications are staggering, potentially reshaping the entire narrative of the Alien series. Think about it. Every chest-bursting scene, every acid-blood-splattered encounter takes on a whole new meaning. We're not just watching humanity's desperate struggle against a mindless cosmic horror. We're witnessing the unintended consequences of playing God on a galactic scale. It's Frankenstein's monster, but with a whole lot more teeth and a serious attitude problem. This theory doesn't just change how we view the Xenomorphs. It transforms our understanding of the entire alien universe. The Weyland-Yutani Corporation's relentless pursuit of the Xenomorphs? No longer just corporate greed, but perhaps a race to control a weapon that could dominate the galaxy. Ellen Ripley's seemingly endless encounters with these creatures? Maybe not just bad luck, but her unwitting role in a cosmic game of chess. But before we can fully grasp the earth-shattering implications of this theory, we need to meet the alleged masterminds behind these biological nightmares. Buckle up, because we're about to encounter a species that makes humanity look like ants in comparison. Now that we've set the stage for our cosmic horror story, it's time to meet the masterminds behind it all. Enter the engineers, a race so advanced, they make our technology look like stone tools. Imagine a species capable of creating life itself, seeding entire planets with their DNA. Now imagine that same species deciding to create the ultimate weapon. Terrifying, right? Well, buckle up, because we're about to dive deep into the world of these cosmic architects and their deadly legacy. Let's start with the basics. Who are these engineers? Picture this: 8-foot-tall humanoids with skin so pale it's almost translucent, muscles that would make bodybuilders weep with envy, and a striking resemblance to us humans. Coincidence? I think not. These towering figures are the OG creators, the beings who supposedly kick-started life on Earth by seeding our planet with their own DNA. Talk about a family reunion millions of years in the making. But here's where it gets interesting. The engineers aren't just our space daddies, they're technological prodigies that make Tony Stark look like he's playing with Lego. We're talking interstellar travel that makes light speed look like a leisurely stroll, terraforming capabilities that could turn Mars into a tropical paradise overnight, and genetic engineering skills that would make Dr. Frankenstein green with envy. And let's not forget their pièce de résistance, the infamous black goo. This isn't your average slime. It's a shape-shifting, DNA-scrambling mutagen that's basically evolution in a bottle. One drop of this stuff, and suddenly you're growing tentacles in places you didn't even know you had. But why? Why would a species capable of creating life turn their talents to designing the ultimate killing machine? It's like finding out Santa Claus moonlights as an arms dealer. The motivations of the engineers are as mysterious as they are terrifying. On one hand, they're out there playing Johnny Appleseed with planets, spreading life across the galaxy. On the other, They seem hell-bent on destroying their creations faster than a toddler with a sandcastle. Are they cosmic gardeners, pruning the galactic garden when species get out of hand? Or are they the ultimate helicopter parents, creating life only to judge it unworthy and hit the reset button? Maybe they're just really into extreme home makeovers. Universe Edition. Whatever their reasons, one thing's clear. The engineers are playing a game of chess on a galactic scale, and we're just pawns on their board. Their facilities, scattered across the stars, aren't just labs. They're weapon factories, churning out biological horrors that make our nightmares look like sweet dreams. And at the center of it all? The Xenomorphs. These acid-blooded nightmares might just be the engineers' magnum opus, the ultimate expression of their power to create and destroy. It's like they looked at nature's deadliest predators and said, "Hold my beer." But every weapon has its drawbacks, and the Xenomorph is no exception. In fact, its very nature might be its biggest flaw, and humanity's only hope for survival. We've met the creators. Now let's examine their monstrous masterpiece. The Xenomorph isn't just alien. It's an abomination that defies the very laws of nature. What if every terrifying aspect of the Xenomorph, from its acid blood to its lightning-fast growth, was carefully designed for maximum lethality? Buckle up, folks, because we're about to dive deep into the twisted biology of our favorite space nightmare. Let's start with the Xenomorph's unique biological features. These aren't just cool sci-fi designs, they're a laundry list of things that shouldn't exist in nature. First up, that infamous acid blood. It's not just corrosive, it's eat through multiple decks of a spaceship corrosive. In nature, most creatures evolve defenses that don't potentially kill them if they get a paper cut. It's like having a built-in self-destruct mechanism. Cool for movies, terrible for survival. But wait, there's more. The Xenomorph's exoskeleton is made of polarized silicon. For those of you who slept through chemistry class, that's about as common in Earth life as finding a unicorn riding a dinosaur. It's like the engineers looked at the periodic table and said, "Let's use the weird stuff." And don't even get me started on their growth rate. These things go from chest burster to full-grown killing machine faster than you can say game over, man. Natural creatures take years to mature. Xenomorphs? They're ready to hunt in hours. It's like they're speed-running evolution. Now, let's talk adaptability. Xenomorphs are the ultimate biological chameleons. They can incorporate DNA from their hosts, adapting to new environments faster than you can change your profile picture. Quadrupedal dog alien? Check. Swimming xenomorph? You bet. It's like they're nature's ultimate mix-and-match toy, except every combination ends in teeth and terror. But here's where it gets really mind-blowing. Despite all this adaptability, xenomorphs maintain a consistent base form across vastly different environments. In nature, you'd expect to see more variation. It's like they have a factory reset button that keeps them on brand no matter where they pop up. Now let's compare our favorite alien killing machine to some naturally evolved species. Most highly specialized creatures in nature have significant drawbacks to balance their cool traits. Cheetahs are fast but tire quickly. Koalas are adorable, but can only eat one thing. Xenomorphs? They're like the Swiss Army knife of predators. All advantages, no downsides. And let's not forget about their reproductive strategy. While there are some nasty parasites in nature, nothing comes close to the Xenomorph's chest-burster approach. It's like they took the worst aspects of parasitic wasps, cranked it up to 11, and added a side of psychological horror. But the real kicker? Xenomorphs have no natural predators. In any balanced ecosystem, there's always something bigger and badder. Not for our Xenomorphs. They sit at the top of every food chain they encounter, like an alien species decided to create the ultimate apex predator just for funsies. All of this paints a pretty clear picture. The Xenomorph isn't just unlikely to have evolved naturally, it's practically impossible. Every aspect of its biology screams designed, from its acid blood to its rapid adaptability. It's as if someone took a checklist of things that make a perfect killing machine and turned it into a living, breathing nightmare. But every weapon has its drawbacks, and the Xenomorph is no exception. In fact, its very nature might be its biggest flaw, and humanity's only hope for survival. Certainly, I'll write Section 4 based on the provided outline and instructions. Galactic Arsenal. Xenomorphs as the ultimate biological weapon. We've seen the Xenomorphs' impossible biology, now let's consider its purpose. Because if our theory is correct, these creatures weren't just made to kill, they were made to conquer. Imagine unleashing a single Xenomorph on an unsuspecting planet. Now imagine that planet being completely overrun in a matter of weeks. Terrifying, isn't it? Well, buckle up, because we're about to dive into the nightmarish potential of Xenomorphs as weapons of mass destruction. Let's start with the strategic advantages of using Xenomorphs as biological weapons. First off, we're talking about a self-replicating army. One Xenomorph becomes two, becomes four, becomes an unstoppable tide of teeth and claws. It's like if someone weaponized a Ponzi scheme, but instead of losing money, you lose, well, everything. But wait, it gets better. Or worse, depending on your perspective. Xenomorphs are the ultimate in area denial. Want to make a planet uninhabitable without destroying its resources? Release a few facehuggers and voila! Instant no-go zone. It's like the galactic equivalent of putting up a beware of dog sign, except the dog is a 7-foot-tall killing machine with acid for blood. Speaking of acid, let's talk about psychological warfare. Xenomorphs aren't just physically terrifying. They're a walking, stalking nightmare factory. The way they reproduce? Pure horror. Their appearance? Biomechanical terror. Their hunting methods? The stuff of PTSD. It's like someone looked at every human fear and said, let's make that, but worse. And here's where it gets really interesting. Xenomorphs are adaptable. They take on characteristics of their hosts, meaning they can be tailored to specific environments or targets. Need an aquatic assault force? Xenomorph fish hybrids at your service? Want something that can chase down fast-moving prey? May I introduce you to the Xenomorph cheetah? It's like having a Swiss Army knife, if every tool on that knife was designed to cause maximum terror and carnage. But the real kicker? Plausible deniability. Unlike conventional weapons, Xenomorphs could be passed off as a natural, if terrifying, alien species. Oh, those planet-destroying monsters. No idea where they came from. Total mystery. Anyway, now that your world is uninhabitable, mind if we move in? Now, I know what you're thinking. But wait, wouldn't Xenomorphs be just as dangerous to their creators? And you'd be right. Which brings us to the elephant-sized alien in the room. Control. Or rather, the complete lack thereof. You see, for all their perfect organism status, Xenomorphs have one tiny flaw. They're really not picky about who they hunt. Friend, foe, creator. It's all the same to them. It's like creating the ultimate guard dog, only to realize it thinks everyone, including you, is an intruder. And that's not even considering the potential for galactic contamination. Imagine a Xenomorph infestation spreading from planet to planet, system to system. It's like a pandemic, but instead of needing to wash your hands, you need to nuke your entire planet from orbit. It's the only way to be sure, after all. But every weapon has its drawbacks, and the Xenomorph is no exception. In fact, its very nature might be its biggest flaw, and humanity's only hope for survival. Certainly, I'll write Section 5 based on the provided outline and instructions. We've explored the terrifying potential of Xenomorphs as weapons, but now it's time to consider the flip side. Because when you're dealing with the ultimate killing machine, things can go wrong. Catastrophically wrong. What if the engineer's own creation turned against them? What if the weapon they designed to dominate the galaxy became the instrument of their own destruction? Buckle up, folks, because we're about to dive into the nightmarish realm of unintended consequences. Let's start with the obvious. Control, or rather, the complete and utter lack of it. Imagine creating the galaxy's most perfect predator and then realizing you forgot to install an off switch. It's like building a Terminator and giving it a Red Bull. You're just asking for trouble. The Xenomorph's rapid reproduction rate, which makes them such an effective weapon, is also their biggest drawback. Release a few of these bad boys on a planet, and before you can say game over, man, you've got an infestation that would make rabbits look like amateurs. It's exponential growth with teeth, acid, and a really bad attitude. But wait, it gets worse. Remember how Xenomorphs can adapt to different environments and hosts? Well, that's great until they start adapting in ways you didn't anticipate. Suddenly, your spacefaring murder machines are immune to your containment protocols. It's like creating a superbug, except this one is actively hunting you down. And let's not forget about the potential for galactic contamination. One escaped xenomorph on a spaceship, and you could be looking at a pandemic that makes the Black Death look like a common cold. Imagine trying to quarantine entire star systems. Sorry folks, this sector is closed due to an outbreak of acid-blooded killing machines. Please check back in a few millennia. But the real kicker, the psychological toll. Creating a species designed solely for destruction? That's bound to have some karmic blowback. It's like playing God, if God was really into horror movies and had a twisted sense of humor. The engineers might have thought they were crafting the ultimate weapon, but in reality they were forging the chains of their own nightmares. Now let's talk ethics, because nothing says moral quandary quite like unleashing a horde of biomechanical death monsters on unsuspecting populations. It's the kind of thing that makes you ask, are we the baddies? Spoiler alert. If you're even considering xenomorphs as a viable military strategy, the answer is probably yes. But here's where it gets really interesting. What if the xenomorphs aren't just a failure of control, but a failure of understanding? What if, in creating the perfect organism, the engineers actually created something beyond their comprehension? It's like teaching an AI to think, and then being surprised when it decides humans are the problem. The potential loss of control scenarios are enough to keep you up at night. Imagine a xenomorph queen gaining sentience and deciding she's had enough of being a pawn in someone else's war. Suddenly, you're not dealing with a weapon anymore, but a vengeful new species with a grudge against its creators. It's Frankenstein in space. And spoiler alert, it doesn't end well for the good doctor. And there you have it, folks, the xenomorph. A cautionary tale of scientific hubris, the dangers of playing God, and why you should always read the fine print before unleashing your doomsday weapon. Because when you're dealing with engineered evolution, you're not just playing with fire. You're playing with a fire that thinks, adapts, and has decided it doesn't particularly like you. But every weapon has its drawbacks, and the xenomorph is no exception. In fact, its very nature might be its biggest flaw, and humanity's only hope for survival. Prometheus Unbound, the cinematic clues. We've built our case, but now it's time for the clincher. Because the truth about the xenomorphs isn't just hidden in the shadows, it's right there on the screen, if you know where to look. What if I told you that Ridley Scott himself has been dropping hints about the xenomorphs' true nature for years? The clues are there. You just need to connect the dots. Let's start with Prometheus, shall we? This movie is like a treasure trove of aha moments for our theory. Remember that creepy mural in the engineers' facility? The one that looks suspiciously like a xenomorph in all its biomechanical glory? That's not just spooky set dressing, folks. It's a neon sign screaming, "We've been playing with DNA long before humans invented the microscope." But wait, it gets better. Let's talk about that black goo. You know, the stuff that turns worms into snake monsters and humans into, well, let's just say not human. This isn't your average alien Kool-Aid. It's the engineer's Swiss Army knife of bioweapons, capable of rewriting DNA faster than you can say chest burster. And where does all this lead? Straight to our favorite acid-blooded nightmare, of course. Now, let's hop over to Alien Covenant. If Prometheus was laying breadcrumbs, this movie is practically hitting us over the head with a xenomorph-shaped bat. Enter David, our friendly neighborhood synthetic, with a god complex. Watch closely as he plays Doctor, Frankenstein with the engineer's leftovers. He's not just tinkering, he's refining, perfecting. In his own words, he's creating the perfect organism. Sound familiar? It should. It's practically the xenomorph's tagline. But here's where it gets really interesting. Pay attention to the dialogue. When David shows Orem his little workshop of horrors, he doesn't just brag about his creations. He talks about perfecting them, about advancing what the engineers began. It's like watching a mad scientist put the finishing touches on a doomsday device, except this device has teeth, acid blood, and a really bad attitude. And let's not forget the visual cues. The way the proto-xenomorphs in Covenant move, the way they hunt, it's all eerily reminiscent of the classic xenomorph we know and fear. But there are differences, subtle tweaks that suggest a work in progress. It's evolution in fast forward, guided by an artificial hand. Now, I know what you're thinking. But what about Ridley Scott? Surely the man behind the curtain has something to say about all this. Oh, he does, my friends. He does. In interviews, Scott has been dropping bombs bigger than the one that took out Hadley's Hope. He's talked about the engineers running a military installation on LV-223, about them doing biowarfare experiments. He's even gone so far as to say that the engineers created the first xenomorph. But here's the kicker. Scott doesn't see this as the end of the story. He's hinted at wanting to explore the engineers' homeworld, to dig deeper into why they created these biological nightmares in the first place. It's like he's inviting us to follow the breadcrumbs all the way back to the cosmic bakery. So there you have it, folks. The clues are all there, woven into the very fabric of the films. From murals to mutagens, from synthetic scientists to the words of the creator himself, everything points to one chilling conclusion. The xenomorphs aren't just monsters from space. They're weapons, carefully designed, meticulously engineered, and utterly terrifyingly perfect.